Do stay with us, and even if you're a little, you can do a lot. That's the message of the new musical Matilda, based on Roald Dahl's beloved book. The show is currently on at the Teatro at Monte Casino in Johannesburg. Take a look.
The subsequent fall was inevitable. They never stood a chance, they were written that way.
The multi-award-winning musical might be new to South African audiences, but it's one of the most popular shows abroad.
Thanks.
These three young actresses take turns to play the sassy and precocious 5-year-old Matilda, the titular character in the show.
My mummy says I'm a lousy little worm. My daddy says I'm a bore. My mummy says I'm a jumped up little germ, that kids like me should be against the law. My daddy says I should learn to shut my pie hole. No one likes a smart-mouthed girl like me.
Well, it's a 5-year-old girl that her parents don't love her, and she fights for her rights, and she makes things right, anything she wants. And she has magical powers from her eyes.
Off to prison you both shall go! No! No!
Magical powers that help her fight wrongs.
Well, they come out through her eyes, so she can move things with her eyes, which is really, really cool. And I think it's because of all the things, her brain's kind of just working overtime. So a line that she says in the show, it's like there's no room in her head for all her brains, so they have to kind of squish out through her eyes. So she has the power to move things. She's a very independent little girl. She's 5 years old, and she wants to help anyone in any way she can. And she believes in justice, and she fights for justice, which I think is just very good to believe in. It's a very good person to want to be one day.
You are a crook, you are a thief, and I shall crush you.
And she also has to stand up to her evil school principal, Miss Trunchbull.
What have I told you about wearing pigtails? I hate pigtails!
But my mummy likes them. She says they make it pretty.
And your mother is a twit!
Now, do any of you know any of your 2 times tables?
Bringing some light to the show is Bethany Dixon, who plays the kind and beloved teacher who notices how extraordinary Matilda is.
Just knock on the door.
Miss Honey is the teacher, and she meets this very special young girl, and through meeting Matilda, which obviously the whole musical is about Matilda, Miss Honey, well, you discover something about her life. I don't want to give too much away. That Miss Honey only really comes to terms with what she's been through when she meets this little girl, Matilda, who has incredible gifts.
Matilda, this is very sad.
A character who injects humour into the show is the librarian Mrs. Phelps, who's from the West Indies.
Your parents must be so proud to have a girl as clever as you.
She's obsessed with books and stories, and Matilda comes into the library often, and I suppose that's where their relationship begins. Matilda tells Mrs. Phelps all sorts of stories, and Mrs. Phelps just loves this. So between them there is unspoken understanding of seeing each other, the type of people they are, and an environment is created in the library where Matilda can truly be, who she wants to be.
No, sir.
The show has 85 international awards under its belt. But why is it so popular?
It's got such a universal theme. It transcends all language, all language barriers or cultural barriers. It talks about bravery and fighting for what's right. And I think anyone can relate to that, no matter where you come from, no matter your race, your belief.
Just because you find that life's not fair, it does mean that you just have to grin and bear it.
And the Matildas want the audience to take courage from the show.
you kind of want them to stand up for themselves. If they're in like a situation like Matilda's in, if they've been bullied a lot, you have to put things right if they're wrong, and you have to believe in justice and fight for what you believe in.
If people have been in not very nice situations, they have to put it right for themselves so they can stand up to Matilda, young kids also.
I just hope that people go home and kind of have the show affect them in a way, and kind of say, you know, oh, I really think this message from the show is really important, and kind of the sense of justice and how you should put things right for yourself if you're unhappy with.
To paraphrase Matilda, nobody but you can change your story.
I've got my eye on you, boy.
I'm a girl. Come watch Matilda the Musical.
Andrea van Wyk, Johannesburg.
Why, that is the biggest hug in the world.